And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world. It's John D, aka Too Much, and my wife,
Kanika do.
Kanika do what?
Oh no, it's Kanika and do at the same time.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. My mind is spinning right now, thinking, but yeah, I'm doing well. You?
I'm well. You know, I definitely reflect on my emotions a lot more, and I can honestly say that I've been happy for some time now, like every day. Like there are moments that kind of make me flustered or disappointed, but overall, I always find a way to enjoy the moment to learn from, because nobody wants to be sad, upset, or anything that can bring them down. But I feel like I'm understanding why those things happen, and I'm great. I really am. The question I wanted to ask you is, what is the best lie you have ever told?
What's the best lie you ever told?
I think I've already answered this question on wisdom, but the best lie I've ever told was the idea that I was living my life correctly. Like everything that I did that I wouldn't ever do today, I had multiple reasons why it was okay for me to do those things. And I wasn't doing it to get out of trouble. I was doing it for the understanding, like, hey, in order for me to get this, I have to do that. And when I see people do things and they're not thinking, I felt like, okay, that's wrong. But to me, I feel like a lot of things majority of things I did were calculated as I got older, because I thought I was supposed to live a particular life. And when I look back, I think about why I felt that way. And in the question I put, I came from an environment where it was okay to do whatever as long as you didn't get caught. But I went the extra mile to make it make sense for me, because I didn't want to feel like I'm just taking advantage of people. And when I look back, I was like, I lived that life majority of my life. And I was like, I was a really good person in my head. I wasn't doing anything maliciously. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. I was just doing what I really thought other people were doing. And now when I live my life, I'm like all of my decision making is still calculated, but I don't think I can really get in trouble or I could disappoint anybody from the things that I'm doing, even though I can still explain why I do everything that I do. But I think it just makes more sense on the decisions that I make. And I know people that are still living lies. But that's because they really believe it. It's not like that they're like, you know what, I'm out here lying. It's because they grew up in an environment where that was okay. And I also heard something today that was like, what's an unpopular belief that other people don't like is people aren't accountable for their decisions. Like if you can come up with a reason, you'll keep doing what you do. And until most people lose everything before they change the behavior, because they really do believe they're supposed to live like that. Well, at least that's what I think. But that is definitely the biggest lie I've ever told. I convinced myself, like I'll give you an example. As a little kid, I was stealing. Like, why would a kid steal? Like food, you know what I'm saying? Things like that, like, or toys. It's because your parents they couldn't get it for you, and you saw your friends with them. And if nobody tells you why you're not able to get these things, as a human, your survival tactics just come out. I need to get this, and it's wrong. But unless somebody tells you, hey, you shouldn't do this because this is going to create other behaviors going forward. But I just didn't know. even just talking about people. Like this one person said, you know, the world is too sensitive. We're all politically correct. Like, when you open your mouth, do you want to hurt somebody's feelings on purpose? And to me, I feel like people don't think about that. They think because they went through it that it's okay for others to go through it. And I'm not saying that there isn't a group of people that had to go through that, but we shouldn't have to still go through it. Like, if you can't express yourself without offending anybody, you should keep your mouth closed. Or you should accept all of the feedback that's going to come with it, you know? And I feel like if we were effective communicators, why would you offend somebody on purpose? Like, unless that's your intent. It was like, man, you sensitive. What do you mean I'm sensitive? Like, that hurt my feelings. I shouldn't tell you, because if I don't tell you, you're going to keep doing it. And then if you keep telling me, I'm going to have to make a decision. And it could get different. You know, now who's being too sensitive?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the lie I lived created this person that made me feel like people were sensitive, because I didn't get to be sensitive outside of me being a little kid. You know, and then when that sensitivity taken away, you feel like everybody got to be tough now. Oh, you tough. You think you tough, don't you?
Stop it. Stop it. I get it. You know, it reminds me of what we were watching earlier this week, and the woman was like, I feel like he's trying to control me. Like, he wants me to think about what I say before I say it. And it was like, what? But yeah.
Oh, I need you to repeat that. That's so funny to me.
Oh, so the guy tells the woman, he is like, you know, I just really think that, you know, people should think about what they're going to say before they say it. And so then it clicks over to her doing her private interview, and she was like, I really feel like he's trying to control me. He wants me to like think about what I'm gonna say before I say it.
That is that's what I'm saying, like the ignorance.
But yeah, yeah, I think you said the greatest lie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the greatest lie, and it's gonna seem like it's not that deep, but it really is. The greatest lie I've ever told, and I've said it a million times, and I've tricked people over and over again, is I'm okay. Like, you can ask me, I could be, you know, everything could be cool. You know, I could be doing well. I'm feeling really good, you know, but I'm okay. But then there have been times I've been like at my end where I feel like I'm about to make a foolish decision. And I remember saying, I'm okay. Until one day I felt like, one day I was driving to work, and I had considered what would happen if I just drove into this median, or if I turned off this highway and just hit these trees. I literally was at that point, and I know I was telling people I was okay, and I was not okay. Right after that, I remember coming home, because I had that thought. I remember coming home from work that next morning, and I told you I need to go away somewhere because I can't handle it anymore. And I was talking to my mom, and she ended up going with me. I went away for like 4 days or so, just for my own mental health. But I was telling everybody I was okay, and everybody was living their life, so it's not their job to sit there and try to, you know, continue to pry and see if I'm okay. And had I done what I was considering doing, it would have been apparent I wasn't okay. And I had a ton of people that I talked to that had no idea that I was there. And so I've tried to not say I'm okay. I've tried to say I'm doing well, because
Isn't that the same thing?
no. To me, well, when I say, oh, I'm doing well, I feel that things are in a good place. It may not be that I'm ecstatic and running around and it's the best it could ever be, but I feel content with what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. When I say I'm okay, in my head, it made me feel like I was saying, I'm handling everything. Like I'm still able to keep all the balls in the air. I'm okay.
So when you say that, do you assume that other people is looking okay the same way you are?
No, because I'm saying okay. I used to say okay because I feel like that it put people at ease,
Mm-hmm.
and then they didn't worry about me. And in my head, I'd worry about me and figure it out myself. And sometimes you're at a point where you can't figure it out on your own. And so I figured out that telling people I'm okay made them really feel like I was doing well.
Yeah.
I was content. Things were all right. But really what it was I haven't dropped a ball yet. I'm stressed. I'm not sleeping well, or I'm worried about things all the time. I might be crying by myself sometimes in the car on the way to work or home from work or whatever, but I'm still here. I'm okay. I'm all right. And now when people talk to me, I try to not use okay. I'll say that I'm doing well. And if I'm not doing well, I'll definitely indicate it. Like, I'll be like, this week was trash. Or, I try to be honest because just like, we've talked before about, family or friends looking out for their family and friends. And when they're stressed or there might be some mental distress going on, paying attention. But you know what? These people can mask things a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to lose control ever. And my family sit there and try to backtrack and try to figure out where they could have helped me. That's trash too. So I feel like at this point.
Sounds like you've become a lot more responsible for your emotions that people may not be aware of.
Yeah, it's like, I started to look at it as if my friend was struggling with something, I would want them to talk to me. If the kids, my mom, my brothers, you, anybody, if you needed to talk to somebody, I want somebody to feel like they could talk to me or be honest with me, because I'll listen. I may not have the answer, but I'm not going to leave you hanging. We just both ain't got the answer, and we're going to try to figure it out. And I think that I don't ever want to leave that where my family is trying to figure out what happened. No, I know when I'm falling, and I need to be able to say it. Like I don't know if I attract, maybe I'm unstable and that's why I attract people who are like therapists, but my friends that I talk to daily, they advise me like therapists, and I try to do the same for them. Like it's full on support. And even when we're talking, like when there's a problem, and it's not just, girl, guess what he did, or blah, 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 blah. It's like, I am struggling. Like I am trying to do this. I'm trying to do it. I'm so honest with them now because I don't want to fall. I don't want to lose. I don't want to get swallowed up by the things that are going on with me. And so I've learned that I use okay to get people to not worry about me, and then I'll continue to be in on my own trying to figure it out. So I stopped using that lie so that there's never that moment for me where I'm out of control and nobody knows what happens, and then something bad happens and everybody's trying to figure out what could they have done. So for me, my biggest lie, and it's been one of my most successful ones, is I'm okay. And I'm really not okay. I mean, today I'm okay, but I'm just saying in those moments. So I try to veer away from that now. Either I'm doing well, or it's a really good day, or I'm stressed. I'm feeling down. I'm going to indicate what I feel. There's no blanket statement anymore trying to hide.
Yeah. There was a question that I answered that made me think about you. It said, do people want help, or would they like to figure out their own problems? And, through multiple conversations, I realized that people do want to figure out their own problems, and a lot of times they're just looking for a sounding board. And I noticed that when I do have conversations with people, if I ask questions or repeat things that they can hear, they're allowed to hear what I'm hearing. And people would rather figure it out. It's like a more of a sense of accomplishment, like I heard it. But if you tell somebody, a lot of times it's in language where it looks too difficult, or they don't want to hear it because they already know what they're supposed to do. So in order to be a better husband to you, I don't know when it'll happen, but when you are in those moments, I hope that I can be whatever it is outside of me always coming up with suggestions for you to get over whatever it is. Because, you know, I've reflected on a lot of the conversations we've had, and I think about you always saying, you know, stop giving unsolicited advice or forcing me into conversations that, you know, I don't want to participate in. And it's like, I think I'm getting better because we don't have as many disagreements or misunderstandings as we used to. And I believe we still talk a lot, you know, so I feel like I'm actually learning. And when I say learning, I'm not saying you're not improving either, but I know that a lot of the problems we had before was because of me thinking I knew everything. And I'm not saying that's changed at all, but my presentation looks different, or I want it to look different, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to get information from somebody who thinks they know everything, or at least sound like it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I agree. Sometimes I do say things not because I want your advice, but just so I can hear it out in the atmosphere. Once you put the words out there, you can process it differently than letting it jumble all in your head. With, like, it was something you said, somebody told you, when you have a problem, write it down.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that problem is jumbling in my head along with all the other problems. So how you going to be able to sort out one thing? Yeah. But I also think that some people, it's not that they want to solve it on their own. It's this thought, and it's always a lie, I think. But it's this thought that you don't want to inconvenience somebody else with your problem. You don't want to, you know, bother somebody. I'm not going to bother them. They got all this stuff that they're dealing with. But sometimes people don't want to inconvenience others with their problem. They feel like they're imposing on them. And
is that what you felt?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that's how it is. Like, you know, there are things that I understand what needs to be done. I know what I should be doing. I'm not going to be bothering y'all with that because I already know. I just need to stop whatever I'm doing and get it done. Sometimes it's like that. Or when you feel so overwhelmed, you can barely even get your thoughts organized enough. So sometimes when I say things, the first time I say it about how I feel is not exactly right. Like, I have to keep going through and finding the right words and refining what I have to say before I get to the real problem, because it's all jumbled up in my head, right? Yeah. And so if you're sitting here thinking, I can't even explain, or I don't even understand how to make this make sense, you don't want to have somebody sitting there with you while you're trying to figure it out. You feel like you're wasting their time. You're imposing on them, and they got other things they need to worry about, and they got this and they got that. And the truth of the matter is, like, people, I don't think I've ever found anybody who wasn't willing to drop everything and talk to me about what I needed when I needed it. There's never been a time that I've interacted with anybody that has been where I'm imposing on them. So, but it's something in my head that says that. You know what I'm saying? But if one of my friends felt the way that I was feeling at that moment, I would want them to feel like they could come to me, and it don't matter. You know, you could say it 90 different times until you get to what you really want to say. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to listen because I want to help. It's weird because it's the idea of, I don't want to bother anybody else, but you definitely have the love and the want for, it's like you love people enough where you don't want to bother them and you want them to be okay and not worry about you. But if they're going through the same thing, you love them enough where you want them to be able to run to you and not have to go through it alone. It's weird.
What have you ever thought about where that came from? Because I'm listening to you, and I was complete opposite. Everybody said I talk too much.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I felt like, shoot, I couldn't figure this out. I need somebody else. And then I promise I've heard that more than anything. When I talk about things that was tough for me on trying to make decisions, people's like, man, you be telling too many people your business. I'm like, well, I don't have no damn answers and you don't have it either. So what am I supposed to do? Just keep it. So to me, I felt like if you were my friend, you could listen to it. Mm-hmm. And to me, I know I used friend loosely, but at the end of the day, I felt like the further you're away, the less likely you're going to be biased on what you think is probably the most appropriate thing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so listening to you, I do know that, because we talked about this with the kids, like, you know, we would want them to tell us everything, but we didn't tell our parents everything. Right. Because we were scared of whatever reason, but it never was to the point where we felt like I have to tell them this so I can get the best decision. So,
but I think another thing that we also did was we were trying to expose our kids to a number of different adults that we trusted. They may not see everything the way that we see it, but being able to say, if you don't feel comfortable saying it to me, you still have this person, you know, or you have this person. And unfortunately, because of how we've kind of bounced around traveling and living in different places, they haven't been able to establish the closeness with these particular individuals the way we would like. But the goal was really to
create a village.
Yeah. And there were things like we had conversations with their godparents in different times. And I know one of the things that I didn't mind is you don't have to tell me everything that y'all talk about. As long as they're not going to hurt themselves. Like, there are some things that you need to maintain that confidentiality with them so that they can feel comfortable talking to you and you giving advice. But I don't feel that that's the whole point of saying I've carefully curated these people that I trust. Their mindset, I know they love my kids. I know they know who we are. So I know they wouldn't tell them to do something so completely outlandish that we would be like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so there's a certain level of comfort I want the kids to feel. Like, I can't talk to my parents, but I do need guidance. I don't ever want them to feel like they can't talk to us. But if they needed a different perspective, they would be able to get it from one of these people, and they would make very, very thoughtful decisions in guiding them. Because just like you, when you went and you said, you know, sometimes I ask people and they don't have an answer, I got to ask somebody. They're going to run into those situations as well, even into their adulthood. And I think it's our responsibility to give them a network of people that can help, because just like you said, sometimes people are too close to you to give you the answer that makes the most sense. And I can tell you right now, and you already know, if the kids tell me something about somebody bothering them at school or somebody saying, I immediately light up.
Mama Bear style.
Yeah. And so there hasn't been that I know of a moment where they haven't felt comfortable telling me, even though they know that I react in that way. But there may be a situation in which they need to talk about maybe a relationship they're in. And if they talk to us, they already know, you know, or if they talk to me, they definitely know what I'm going to say. And it may not help them. It may not be what they're looking for. That may not be, you know, I might say, well, then this is one of those moments where you need to walk away. But if they know that I'm going to say that, I think that there's that bias because I'm trying to protect them at all costs. And I may not be realistic because I've been in relationships where I know
you're not realistic. You're always looking at the least amount of damage possible for your kids,
yes,
not anybody else. So that's going to be biased.
It is. And so I understand that. And that's why these other people are important, because they're not, the kids don't feel like they're going to just go into mama bear mode. They're going to think from a different perspective than I will, because they're not their child. They're not their child. So that's why that group really means a lot to me. And listening to the kids, like, we're encouraging them now that we're settled back here. And I know settled, like, we've been here for like 3 years now, but now that we're really settled down and the kids are getting older, we're encouraging them to, you know, call that godparent or talk to that aunt or that uncle or whatever, just because they're coming into a age where their parents are less of the influence and their peers are more so, but they need other perspectives in their parents. And I would rather there be a good pool of adults that they trust and to help combat, you know, some of these ideas that they may be getting from their friends.
You know, listening to you, I really wish that I was a better communicator, because I feel like the decisions that I would give them are always going to be in their best interest, but it's going to be in the best interest of where they can walk away from it and be like, I'm glad I did that. Because I was thinking about, I don't know did you hear the question I asked Dallas last night?
No.
I said, Dallas, if I was driving and I killed somebody, do you think if I had enough money to get a lawyer that I would try to get out of the consequence? You know what he said?
He said no.
Correct. And I was like, I'm glad you think like that, because at the end of the day, I feel like integrity is real. And I feel like if you know that your parents will take the consequence, like, you're less likely to do something that's going to put yourself in a bad consequence. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I know I don't have that relationship with them like you do, because they come to you about everything. And I feel like at some point, God willing, before they leave, that they are comfortable enough to come talk to me about something that could be tough for them, to get a different perspective. Like, to me, I feel like this. If they don't go to you because they know that you're going to be mama bear, I'm going to be mad if they go to a godparent or an aunt or an uncle over me, because I feel
definitely.
like, but I'm just saying, like, just listening, I'm like, you have that relationship with them where, from what I can see, that they do trust and believe in you. And even though they know you're going to react that way, sometimes it's still safer than what they think that I'm going to do, because they don't come to me. It's like you're the filter before I can talk to them about
it. Yeah, sometimes. But I think that, you know, that'll change with time.
With time. I'm hoping that's the goal. But watching you, the way that you've handled them, it's a blessing to be a father in a relationship with a woman who has this relationship with the kids. Because if you were anything like me, like, the kids will be getting guidance from their peer group, making ultimately bad decisions that will compromise the entire family.
For real.
So I want to thank you for just having that mind to be able to create the relationship with them, because I was telling you, like, teaching now, I got these kids that are confiding in me, and I know that they haven't told their parents, because their parents will kill them. And now the kids aren't in trouble. It's just the exposure that they have. They should not be around, and they should be definitely talking to somebody who's in their best interest.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, you do need to look at this. Don't look at that. If you look at this, this is the reason. This is what's possible that could happen. So I feel like if we don't learn how to talk to the youth, like, they're going to still be making bonehead decisions, because their peer group are the ones that they're going to get the information from. And we typically do what our environment does.
Agreed.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being so awesome.
Aw, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you do offer a different perspective. So what I will say is, even if the kids come to me, once they're done talking to me, they already know I'm gonna sit down with you.
They do, and that's what I say. Like they're comfortable enough that you can talk to me, and then I can go talk to them.
Yeah, and then and that may be the case. Like you may go talk to them on your own, or we may all talk together. But like they're gonna get both perspectives regardless.
Yeah. But reason why I said it, because I know that some kids will be like, "You told them."
I know. And there are certain things where I will bring it up where I'll say, "Do you want to tell your dad what you were talking to me about?"
Yeah, and
and that's another. And it's not just bad things. It could be like fun things too. I'll be like, "Oh, you want to tell your dad about?"
And that, and I'll say this though, by you doing that, to me, it creates a sense of trust that my mother trusts this man. She wouldn't put me in this situation. Of course I can say. So I want you to know, like, regardless of how it may look, it looks like there's a trust being built. Like my mother does believe this man.
Yes. And then there's the other idea. So for those who are not familiar with John pre this podcast or whatever, he used to be very, very, what's the word I want? Like if you tell him something, he was really quick to cut you off or tell you that wasn't that deep or wasn't that important, minimizing things. And sometimes blowing things out of proportion that weren't necessary. And so it left a lot of question for the kids as to whether or not they wanted to say this particular thing or not to him. Whereas with me, they would just tell me whatever. But what they've always known is that I'm gonna pull you back into the fold so that it's a whole family idea. But yeah, it can be difficult. But now they're learning that they can come to you and get answers and not feel that sense of nervousness of what's gonna happen next.
Being ridiculed or why are you doing this? Like that's stupid. Like like I think about the way that I was. I remember hearing those things, and I never thought that I said those things. But you don't have to say those things for people to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's one of those things you always have to think about is your body language and what you're saying. I was telling one of my friends, when kids tell us stuff, we be like, that's not even that deep. Like in the grand scheme of things, when you're an adult, this is this and this is that. Like this isn't even important. And that's not helpful. Because you have to think you're looking at that because of your decades of experience. Yeah. And their little 13, 14, 15.
That's real deal business.
Hey, this is the next level stuff.
Somebody just died in comparison. Yeah, that's for real.
So with us, it's like, that's nothing. But when you minimize it, then it's like, well, when I come to them, they just going to tell me it's stupid. And so that's not helpful. And so now I'm not going to talk to them about that, or this isn't something I want to talk to them about. But
that's that's awesome to even just to recognize that when you minimize your kids thoughts or their emotions, that you're creating this wall that they may not come back to you because they learn behaviors.
And then they learn from their friends what to do because they can't talk to you, and then all of us dumb. Mm-hmm. But if you just keep in mind that you're talking to 13-year-old yourself or your child, and you're understanding the magnitude of what they're saying to you, it helps you so much better in guiding them. And then guess what? You teach them how to work through that, and then it helps to build their skill set for the next problem. And it builds their trust in you to come back around and say, I got good advice or good guidance or, partnership with my parent in working through this. So I'm going to bring them back in because this is something I can't handle. And so for me, it's really important to establish that type of relationship and never act like what they're talking about is stupid or, look, you talking about this little boy ain't nothing. He's not going to be your husband, so you don't need to worry about that and da-da-da-da-da. But, like, they feel real feelings. Yeah. Like, this is the most care or love
outside of their family.
I've ever had for somebody else, and it looks a lot like what my mom and my dad do, so this is important. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I really keep that in mind. I was talking to my mom in the car the other day, and I was like, shoot, I had a boyfriend in middle school. I loved him. And he, I loved him. I 13-year-old loved him. And he gave me a necklace, and my mom made me give that necklace back. And when I say I was so hurt, and then he gave me another necklace, and then I hid that one and I kept it. But until I got mad at him and we broke up, and then I threw it out in the alley, and I told him I threw that out in the alley. I don't even know how much he spent on it. It was probably $14. But the point is, it was strong. Like, my feelings were strong. And when my mom was like, you don't need to be accepting no gifts from no little boy, give it back. Like, she didn't understand, but Mom,
you know, as a parent during that time, for her to be better so you wouldn't have to go through that, she was supposed to elaborate more on why she said it that way. But you know, as a parent, you don't know that you gotta like say these things. It's just like, look, I know better, you'll understand when you get older. Well, I need to know now.
Because and you know, that's another thing. Culturally, we're on that whole do as I say, and you don't know, I'm an adult and you're just a kid, so you don't know. But the thing is that then you don't prepare them to think in steps of complexity to lead them up to the point. And then when they're 18, be like, you grown now. Yeah. Figure that thing out. And you be like, but hold on. I've been riding with training wheels the entire time, and you wouldn't let me take them off. You wouldn't teach me how to ride with two wheels. And then 18, you just telling me to figure it out. That's crazy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's a missing part in here. And I think that it's all because people are products of the previous generation. And I've said this a number of times. My mom would be like, we didn't ask those questions. There wasn't a lot of discussion. They give you direction and you do it. Yeah. And so that was the expectation. But as we move on, the generations become more why. But why? But explain it so I understand it. I need to and I really do believe that in talking to, and this isn't just parents, these are like aunts and uncles and teachers, and just like with people that you're coming in contact with, like, you got to meet them where they are. That is one of the things when I was studying, one of my degrees is in social work. One of the things that they used to push all the time is meet the person where they are. Like, you need to look at the entire, if you're standing in their shoes, how is all of this looking? So that you can help them navigate out of it effectively. But if you're just looking at it from your perspective, you don't know, what turns and what doors are in there. What we don't know. Yeah. So you have to be able to go where they are. You're standing next to them and you're looking at this problem 360 the way they're looking at it. So then you can say, okay, I'm processing everything you're talking about. Let's go this way. I'm not choosing that way because of this. So I'm going to tell you, I think this is what we should be doing, because it really helps them to start to look and process the things around them and effectively be able to make decisions. We can't make all the decisions for them and tell them they a kid and we going to do this and we going to do that. And then when they turn 18, which is some magical number for people, then all of a sudden you should know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's absurd. But, I think that another 100 years, there'll be a population of parents that believe in explaining to their kids. So I just hate that, we had to be the cycle breakers, because to me, I feel like if I would have learned, well, if any kid would have had parents that was able to be clear and concise about, certain things, this will happen. I mean, kids will make better decisions, But I think every generation is a cycle breaker. I feel like there are things that my mom used to describe growing up, what she would see that she would not do. And it impacted me in how I saw things. I think we are definitely breaking cycles in regards to parenting. But I do want to acknowledge that every generation has looked back and was like, maybe not that. It may not be as big as what we're talking about, but I definitely know that there are things that my mom experienced that she said, that's not going to be for me. That's not going to be for my kids. And I truly, probably prematurely, I want to give a shout out to everybody who says, I'm going to take a different path, rather than taking the path that you've seen
and you think that, like, don't take the well-worn path. If you know that something about that path has led you in a wrong way or made you feel like you were ill-equipped for life, then find another path that may not be as well-worn.
I think the problem with that is that people select a path that's been worn because they know they're going to get more help from it. Like if you go to a path that's less worn, you may not be able to talk to anybody because I told you shouldn't have went that way, or at least that's the way that I'm looking at it. And I highly recommend that the less worn path will always, if you complete it, you'll be happier than going the way that everybody else is going. So definitely shout out to all of you who are taking paths that are less worn, and hopefully you have enough resources to come out of there stellar and lead by example for whoever's watching.
Yeah.
Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
Just those people.
For real. Shout out to you guys. And I do want you guys to know, we know how difficult it can be because, everybody's life is difficult. But those of you that don't have the resources or the guidance and you're still finding a way, you have a couple people here that's sending prayers for more doors or opportunities to open up for the walk that you've decided to take, because the walk is well worth it. Shout out to you guys. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA, get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.